In chapter 1835, we witness Zachary's mourning after awakening in an empty house, devoid of his beloved wife's serenity. His initial impulse to reach out and embrace her was met with a cold realization that she wasn't there. Serenity and Sony had left on a trip with Zachary's grandmother, leaving him to cope with his solitude. As Zachary lamented the absence of his family, he recalled his busy schedule and how he had lost track of time. He had been so consumed with work that he had failed to notice that it was a Saturday. Usually, he would rise early for a morning jog, but without Serenity beside him, he couldn't muster the motivation to get out of bed. His longing for Serenity was palpable, and he attempted to fill the void by embracing her pillow, allowing him to drift back into a restless sleep. However, the pangs of hunger awakened him, reminding him that he couldn't dwell in bed any longer. Though he considered skipping breakfast in his wife's absence, his grumbling stomach forced him to get up. When he checked his phone, he found a slew of unread messages, mainly from his friends, inviting him to spend the weekend together. But what he yearned for most was a message from Serenity, yet there was none. His frustration mounted as he realized that he couldn't see any updates from Serenity on her social media profiles either. He remembered that she had changed her phone number, and even Liberty didn't possess the new one. His disheartenment turned to anger as he scolded Serenity, questioning her cruel neglect and failure to contact him. As he descended to the first floor, a chubby dog ran towards him. He then recalled the pet dog he had given Serenity in the past as a gesture of love, and it had become chubby and overfed under her care. Though he didn't particularly like furry animals, he had wanted to make her happy by getting a pet. The couple had eventually become too preoccupied with their work to care for the pets, and they had been looked after by Mrs. Lane, the housekeeper. The obese dog energetically approached him, prompting him to instinctively raise his foot, nearly kicking it away. Mrs. Lane rushed to the dog's defense, revealing that it was his grandmother's pet. Zachary spared the dog further harm, though his disdain for its obesity was evident. He chastised the dog, saying that it had grown so fat it hardly resembled a dog anymore, more like a pig. This led to a thought about Serenity, who, despite her appetite, never seemed to gain weight as dramatically as a pet. He asked Mrs. Lane to take the dog outside, as it made him uncomfortable, and he lamented that it reminded him of Serenity's love for food. Yet, she didn't gain weight like the dog. The chapter concludes with Mrs. Lane struggling to remove the dog, who insisted on remaining close to Zachary.